My fertility journey started about 15 years ago. I got married in 2005, and I never even thought this journey would take this long, to be honest. Before I came to George's Memorial, I'd been to quite a number of hospitals, had different fertility treatments over the years, and I'd almost even given up. I had a couple of friends who had been here who had spoken to me about their own journeys and how it was different, because most of them, obviously, if you've been on this journey for so long, you're going to encounter a lot of problems. You might change hospitals a few times. So most of them were more or less in the same situation I'd been, and they were like, just go to George's, because they came here and they were successful. So I came to George's with my husband. The very first time we came, we did our registrations, did everything, and then we met with Dr. Iketubosi, and we just took down our histories. We talked about everything that we had done so far, and he said, okay, the first step was to go ahead, do our medicals, and then we could now proceed. So he came up with our medical plan, what we're going to go through, how it was going to proceed. And I think the difference for me was, a lot of the time when you go to some other hospitals, when you get there, they don't really carry you along. They will just tell you things in very vague, they tell you vaguely what it is that you're going to go through. And I also realized that most times, some of the other hospitals, they have like a standard protocol. So whether or not your issues are different, or they don't take that into account. Here, I really felt that my issues were being taken into account, because at every step of the way, it's not as if the journey was completely smooth, because, fertility obviously has, its ups and downs. But at every step of the way, everything was constantly being reevaluated. We were, my husband and I, we carried along, and everything was being explained to us. So after we've been here since, I think maybe we got to George's 2020, 2019, towards the end of the year. So we started our treatment, and, initially we had one or two hitches, but at every step of the way, I think our hands were practically being held, because, even fertility is about, or infertility really, you can't just say, oh, it's going to go this way or it's going to go that way. They do the best, the doctors do the best they can, but everything still comes back to, how it's going to be, So when we eventually started the last treatment that we're going to go through, which was, a few months back, I know when we even started, I was actually quite scared, because I kept thinking, oh, what could go wrong? Most times when you go for IVF, it's always, you hope for the best, you plan for the worst, because you never know what's going to happen. But this time around, I don't know, I was actually a bit scared. And, I was optimistic before I started, and then halfway through, I got a bit scared, and my nurse Kenny, held my hand all through, and she was just like, don't worry, this is going to be all right and everything. And it actually really gave me, that additional, bolster that I needed. And we started the journey on the day of our transfer. I know I was nervous. I didn't sleep all through the night. We got to the transfer day and everything. I was still thinking something was going to go wrong right up until the point that we did the transfer. And when we did the transfer, everything went well. I went home. The two-week wait was quite agonizing, as anybody who has been through it knows, But at the end of the day, I remember coming to the hospital with my husband on test day, the day we're going to do our pregnancy test. And we came to the hospital, and they took the blood samples, and then we're now supposed to see Dr. Iketubosi. So we came in, and he was there, and I was so nervous. I couldn't sit down. And my husband was very calm, like, okay, because my husband always tries to prepare himself because he knows that if anything goes wrong, I'm definitely going to fall apart. So he was ready for whatever was going to come. And the thing is, after you've been on this kind of journey for so long, you almost lose hope, And I don't know, for a second when he said, okay, your results are in, for 1 second, I was so sure that he was going to tell me it was negative. And when he said it was positive, I don't know, I just screamed. That was the first thing I did. I screamed, and my husband was strangely quiet. And I just looked and I saw, my husband is not a very emotional person. And I just saw that, he was just basically taking it in, and he was floored by it, And, even after we left the hospital, we spoke to the doctor and he said, don't worry, everything will be fine. We needed to come in a few weeks after to do our scans, at least to see, how many sacs and all that. Even up to until the point we even came for the scan, to be honest, I don't even know, maybe about 3 months before I started even believing that it was actually really happening. Even now, I still almost can't believe that it's happening, And so when we now did the scans and everything was fine. And, we've just been going on with the journey. And by God's grace, everything will end well and we'll be fine.